Hello everybody, it's me Albatross. Welcome to my new YouTube channel, Anything Taboo. And since it's Anything Taboo, I'm going to take a break from the politics for right now because it's getting a little stale, a little repetitive, a little redundant. I need a break from it. So we're going to dip our toes a little bit into the religions of our world. Where do they all come from? They all got their own origin story and things like that. But pretty much every single religion that I've looked into, they all have like similarities to them. You know what I mean? So it's not inconceivable to think that they all kind of stem from some original source, right? Well, then that's what led everyone recently to talk about like the Anunnaki and everything, because technically speaking, our oldest recordings are technically relating to the Anunnaki. So a lot of people have been going back and looking at all these old ancient myths and stuff. A lot of them are confusing, because some of them portray certain ones as good, while in other myths they're portrayed as evil, and vice versa. So it can get a little confusing. It really can. I myself was confused because it's like I just don't understand. One minute this one's good, and the next minute this one's evil. They just keep flip-flopping. And then I watched a video on YouTube from Elena Danan. And she made a really good point. She said, you're confused, you gotta go back to the original ones. To the first original ones. They're the ones that count the most. And that, makes sense. That makes sense. You know what I mean? Conceivably, it would make sense to go back to the original ones if the ones after that are confusing. So that's what I did. And I even looked at the ones she recommended. She recommended people, the Eridu Genesis, Atrahasis, and the Enuma Elish. And they are, considered by archaeologists to be like some of the oldest tablets. So, and I went back and I got a PDF document because I don't have access to stone tablets. But I do have access to the English translation of those stone tablets, and I printed them out. Thought it'd be interesting to take a look at them before we really dive into religion, I thought it would be good to kind of see where all of our ancestors were coming from. And, like most of our ancestors were from this area in this time period. Most of our ancestors, I would think. Okay, so. Now, before I begin, I'd like for everyone to keep in mind that a lot of these Anunnakis, like some of them have like multiple names, and it makes it a little confusing. Because some of them can be considered separate characters when they're in fact the same person. Because some of them use like multiple names. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know every single one of their aliases. Because I don't. So, I'll let you know when I know and when I don't know. Oh yeah, and I know this is a silly disclaimer. I don't think I'm going to be mentioning anybody that anybody could contact. But you never know. Okay. Lines 1 through 6 of the Eridu Genesis. And this is actually like one of the oldest tablets that we've got. And it's very fragmented. Not a lot of it's left. Here we go. Nintor was paying attention. Now, I don't know who Nintor is. I'm guessing it's one of the elders of there. But I don't know who it is. Okay. Let me bethink myself of my humankind, all forgotten as they are, and mindful of mine. Nintor's creatures, let me bring them back. Let me lead the people back from their trails. Lines 7 through 12. May they come and build cities and cult places, that I may cool myself in their shade. May they lay the bricks for the cult cities in pure spots, and may they found places for divinity. I can say the word. It's just when I'm recording, I have trouble pronouncing. I don't know what it is. Impure spots. Okay. Lines 13 through 16. She gave directions for purification and cries for quarter. the things that cool divine wrath, perfected divine service, and the august offices, said to the surrounding regions, let me institute peace there. Okay, and then I guess there must be some lines missing. When An and Lil Enki and Ninhursag, I thought it was just Ninhursag, but fashioned the dark-headed people, they had made the small animals that come from the earth in abundance, and had let there be, as befits it, gazelles, wild donkeys, and four-footed beasts in the desert. Now, this seems to be implying that these animals were either brought here. That's what it seems to imply, but I'm not sure. Okay. Missing 3 lines. So lines 4 through 7. And let me have him advise. Let me have him oversee their labor. And let him teach the nation to follow unerringly like cattle. Huh. Isn't that interesting? I'm going to repeat that line. And let me have him advise. Let me have him oversee their labor. And let him teach the nation to follow unerringly like cattle. Now, I don't know who's speaking at this point. I have my guesses, but I'm not going to say because I don't know for sure. Okay. Lines 8 through 13. When the royal scepter was coming down from heaven, the august crown and the royal throne, being already down from heaven, he, the king, regularly performed perfection the august divine services and offices, laid the bricks of those cities in pure spots. They were named by name and allotted half-bushel baskets. I don't know what a half-bushel basket means in this context. I have no idea, but they say a lot, the cities of the half-bushel baskets. Maybe they mean flying saucers. I don't know. Okay. The firstling of those cities, Eridu, she gave to the leader Nudimud. Now, I do know who that is. That's Ea Enki. That's just another name for him. The second, Batibira, she gave to the prince and sacred one. I don't know who that is. Maybe is that Ea or his son? I don't know. The third, Larak, she gave to Pabalsag. I don't know who that is. The fourth, Sipar, she gave to the gallant Utu. Now, Utu, they say, is the sun god. I struggle myself to understand if Utu is a real Anunnaki, because he's almost always associated with Shamash, and Shamash is actually like the spaceship, from what I understand. And so, like, his name's usually Utu Shamash. Maybe he's the pilot of the ship. I don't know. I'm just offering my thoughts. Okay. The fifth, Shurupak, she gave to Sud. And I know who Sud is. Sud is actually Ninlil, the wife of Enlil. Okay. So lines 20 through 25. These cities, which had been named by names and been allotted half-bushel baskets, dredged the canals, which were blocked with purplish wind-borne clay, and they carried water. Their cleaning of smaller canals established abundant growth. I'm missing 14 lines after that. Okay. So lines 15 through 25, because it's missing 14 lines. That day, Nintor wept over her creatures, and holy Inanna was full of grief over their people. But Enki took counsel with his own heart. An and Lil, Enki, and Ninhursag had the gods of heaven and earth swear by the names of An and Enlil. So, this seems to be referring to when they were deciding to do the flood. And I'm referencing to other tablets that we'll be reading later, but that's what I'm thinking they're saying. At that time, Ziazudra was king and lustration priest. He fashioned, being a seer, a statue of the god of giddiness, inducing ecstasy, and stood in awe beside it. Not sure which god that is. Okay. As he stood there regularly, day after day, he heard something that was not a dream appearing. Conversation, a swearing of oaths by heaven and earth, confirming, touching of throats, and the gods bringing their thwarts up to Ki-ur, which basically means Ki, earth, And or I think is like kingdom or gathering of gods or something like that. I listen. I'm not an expert at these ancient languages. I'm guessing because it like Ki is used a lot in reference to Earth, and is referenced a lot in reference to like I mean they've got a city there named another one named Uruk, and I'm thinking it has something to do with like a kingdom of some kind. That's my guess. So they're saying that the gods bring their thwarts up to Ki, so like bringing their issues to the earth. And as Ziazudra stood there beside it, he went on hearing. He must have been like listening. I don't know, maybe he worked there or something. It just said he stood there regularly day after day. Okay. Well, if he was a king, he was probably one of the few allowed at those places, I'm guessing. So, and as Ziazudra stood there beside it, he went on listening. Step up to the wall to my left and listen. Let me speak a word to you at the wall, and may you grasp what I say. May you heed my advice. By our hand, a flood will sweep over the cities of the half-bushel baskets and the country. The decision that mankind is to be destroyed has been made. A verdict, a command by the assembly, cannot be revoked. An order of An and Enlil is not known ever to have been countermanded. Their kingship, their term, has been uprooted. They must bethink themselves of that. Now, lines missing, what I have to say to you. All evil winds, all stormy winds gathered into one, and with them the flood was sweeping over the cities of the half-bushel baskets for 7 days and 7 nights. After the flood had swept over the country, after the evil wind had tossed the big boat about on the great waters, the sun came out, spreading light over the heaven and earth. Line 10 through 22. Ziazudra then drilled an opening in the big boat, and the gallant Utu, the sun god, sent his light into the interior of the big boat. See, I've heard a lot of videos say where he's beamed himself in, and it doesn't say that. It says that Utu sent his light in the boat. See, I think this is where a lot of this misinformation is coming from. I don't think people are actually paying attention to what it's saying. It's saying that light shined in. Now, I'm not saying no one beamed in there. I'm just saying that's not what it's saying. Okay, Ziazudra, being king, stepped up before Utu, kissing the ground before him. The king was butchering oxen, was being lavish with the sheep barley cakes, crescents together with missing lines. He was crumbling for him juniper, missing lines, the pure plant of the mountains he filled on the fire, and with the missing lines, clasped to the breast, he missing lines. Okay. You here have sworn by the life's breath of heaven, the life's breath of earth, that he verily is allied with you yourself. You there, An and Enlil, have sworn by the life's breath of heaven, the life's breath of earth, that he is allied with all of you. He will disembark the small animals that come up from the earth. Missing lines. Ziazudra, being king, stepped up before An and Enlil, kissing the ground. And An and Enlil did well by him. We're granting him life like a god's. We're making lasting breath of life, like a god's descend into him, like a god's descend into him. That day they made Ziazudra preserver as king of the name of the small animals, and the seed of mankind lived toward the east over the mountains in Mount Tilmun. And that's the end of the Eridu Genesis, or what they have of it. They're missing a line. They're missing it's very fragmented. They're missing a lot of it. But as we can see here, this is the very first story of someone being warned of a flood. It was a king named King Ziazudra being warned. Did it say Ea? I'm assuming it's got to be Ea. He's the only one in these stories who ever warns anybody. So it's got to be him. You know, it's odd. Because when I was a kid, I used to sit there and think, about, the way, like people treat animals and stuff like they're they're so inferior to humans and stuff. And I used to wonder when I was a child, what if there was an animal who thought that way of us? Well, that thought must have been coming from somewhere, because at least, I mean, here's written proof that a group of individuals, I'm not going to call them gods, they do not deserve that. Most of them are evil. Not all of them. Not all of them. Because, I mean, I understand that thanks to a lot of them, I'm sitting here today. But let's all be honest, if it weren't for them, I mean, I still would be sitting here. I don't know, maybe not. Who knows? Who knows what would happen? But I'm just saying, they're definitely not gods. So, these individuals, it seems to me, like according to the wordings of one of the first few paragraphs, it's literally saying, let them lay their bricks for us unerringly like cattle. So there apparently was some kind of individual who treated our ancestors this way. And it's weird because even though they did a very good job destroying most of these ancient documents, who knows what else was written? This is just the stuff we found. But they did a really good job destroying most of it. And, but even so, they didn't destroy all of it. And a lot of it stares us right in the face of our own religions and our own books. It looks at us right in the face. This evil, this imperfection. And, yeah. This is kind of sad, this is really sad. I mean, just imagine, and I don't even think myself have ever truly grasped the scope of what this meant. Like, what was destroyed, what was lost. Because, no, I don't think that there was just one survivor, this guy. I'm sure there was other survivors. There has to have been. I mean, there had to have been. But imagine what they survived to. All that death. So much death. Dead bodies. Flies, probably. Everything torn apart by water. I just can't imagine, how traumatized our poor ancestors must have been by all these events. They must have been absolutely terrified and traumatized. That's all I want to say. Okay. But anyways, keep that in mind next time you go to pray to one of these guys.